Hello, everyone. Welcome to an enlightening conversation here with the Ring of Democracy and Evan Minton. I'm Angelica Campos, and this is Kellen. We are here with Evan Minton, a candidate vying for the California's 6th State Assembly District. Before we begin, please remember that the Ring of Democracy is a nonprofit organization, not a political organization, with the goal to educate our community of the candidates running.
And the purpose of this interview is just to have a dialogue, a conversation with our candidates to allow you, the audience members, get to know them on not just their political views, but on a personal level.
So now before we dive in, Evan, could you please share with us and the audience a little about yourself, your pronouns, who you are, so our audience can get to know you a bit more outside of politics?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm Evan Minton, and my pronouns are he and they. And I'm running because Californians deserve a strong, brave, and unafraid fighter who's going to stand up for their interests. When corporate interests denied me health care because of my gender transition, I fought back on behalf of my entire community, all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, and won, creating precedents in the process. And for the last 16 years, I've crafted and navigated legislation into law. I cut the student financial aid process in half, ensuring that more students had scholarships for college. I created affordable housing for vulnerable populations by prohibiting discrimination against housing voucher holders. I created California's first child access prevention law to prevent guns from falling into the wrong hands. And I made corporations finally reveal their true harmful impact on the environment by requiring them to reveal their full scope of greenhouse gas emissions. And from my seat, I've seen the true impact of a single brave vote on vital legislation. And we simply need more legislators who are unafraid and driven by their values. The California State Legislature is full of hard battles, but hard battles have never scared me. And that's why I'm running. I'm a veteran policymaker, I'm a change maker, and I'm a progressive who wants to do their best and has always done their best by the people. And I'm so excited to be here. So thank you for having me here today.
And thank you for being here. From what I'm hearing, it sounds like you are a fighter, you believe in change, and you want to make a difference by utilizing all your experiences to make change. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Yeah, you know, I've said for a long time, actually ever since the police murder of George Floyd, I've said my own experiences and the experiences of others have radicalized me with empathy. And it's just like, you know, I have a lot of lived experiences from, you know, just being trans and from my family having gone through just personal struggle ourselves, and then having family, just friends in and out of different systems, and just learning from them, and then just learning from the world around us. And I think that sometimes you're able to be cracked open by the world and understand at a deep level the injustices that are going on that you have faced and that others around you have faced, and you understand the changes that need to be made.
Yeah.
And for me, what I've discovered long ago was that public policy was my magic wand for making the world a better place.
Right.
And that is what I've used for the last 15 years.
Wow.
And I am so glad that I found my tool for making change in this world. And that's what I want to do from the perch of an assembly member, because I know that I'll have even more influence from that spot.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. I love hearing that you are using your lived experiences to create more empathy and connect to our candidates. I think that's powerful. I also would like to ask, and including myself, I believe a lot of audience members would like to know, basically, what is legislation?
Oh,
we hear
sure.
that word so many times, but can you break down what legislation means and
Yeah.
also what your position that you're vying for, what does that entail?
Yeah, no, I'd be so happy to. So legislation is, it's the whole like school, what is that, the schoolhouse rock or whatever that is,
Yes.
like how a bill becomes a law. And so what I've done is, and what people do, and legislation is proposed in a whole number of different ways, but you have a concept, and for example, legislation that I'm working on right now would end pretext stops. And that's when police pull folks over for low-level traffic violations, which can often lead and escalate into something else entirely. It can lead into violence, it can lead into a whole host of things that definitely it doesn't need to.
Right.
And this, I don't have to say this, but I will. But I think we all know it. It often happens, particularly to communities of color. And so a bill that I have the honor and privilege of working on right now is SB 50 by Senator Bradford. And what it does is it stops, it eliminates the most common reasons for low-level traffic violations for police to pull folks over. And instead it would simply just, mail a ticket, just like they do for like if you happen to be in the carpool lane when you're not supposed to or whatever. So just like that, and it would get rid of this entire, interactions when it doesn't need to occur. Okay. So anyway, so what happens is a bill will start from the concept. And so the concept is, well, what can we do to either eliminate or reduce harm, or uplift people? And that's the type of legislation that I work on, is uplifting people and reducing harm. And then you'll take it, you'll get it in a written form, which is the bill itself. It's the bill language. And then it'll go through committee, like a policy committee. It'll go through the public safety committee. And that's when you want to have the Democrats who are on your side. That's when you want the justice-oriented Democrats and the Democrats who are truly for the people, on your side. And that's why it's so important to elect good Democrats. And I often say that policymaking, so much of our policymaking gets done in elections. Because once you get someone in the legislature, you have to convince them to vote the right way, unless it's someone who's already on your side.
Yeah.
The way to ensure that we're passing the policies that matter are to get the good people elected. And so legislation, going back to that, it's the bill that actually goes through the process, the committee process, then it gets voted on the floor of the Senate, the floor of the Assembly, and then it goes to the governor, and then, the governor will either sign or veto the bill. Okay. And then it gets turned into law. And so the pretext stops bill, it would also authorize non-police government agencies to enforce traffic violations as well. And we're working on that, and it's become a 2-year bill. It's a continuing effort, but it's a tough bill. We need more justice-oriented folks in the legislature.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's something that I'm really proud to be working on, but that's just one example.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Of a piece of legislation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for breaking that down for us.
Yeah.
So basically, as in your role, you'll be just creating the bills, creating laws that will go through, you can say, many hoops to finally get signed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what I'll be doing is I'll be picking which legislation to put forward.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'll be authoring those bills, and that's another reason why it's so important to have someone, good in this seat, because they get to choose which bills. And there are some bills that legislators put forward that harm people. We have, one of the things that I'm also really passionate about and that I've worked on for years and years is environmental justice. And if you take a map of California and you look at, where our low-income Californians live, and you take a map of where our most polluted areas in California are, you actually only need one map, because it's the same places. Yeah. And so another bill I've been really proud to been on the leadership team in passing, and this was a 3-year effort, was creating minimum distances between oil and gas drilling and schools, communities, and hospitals.
Right.
Because when they're close together like that, it causes a lot of local pollution, which causes asthma, which causes premature death, preterm birth, and a whole host of other ailments. And so, you know, it was a 3-year battle because we didn't have enough Democratic votes for the bill, in support of the bill.
Wow.
And so what happens though is that we have legislators in place that actually vote against these bills and also carry bills that support conservative industries and conservative interests. And so that's also why it matters. And so what I would be doing as an assembly member is I would have my own selection of bills to put forward, my own legislative agenda.
That makes sense.
And I would be putting forward, I'm going to be a climate warrior in the legislature.
Okay.
So I'd be putting forward bills that address climate chaos,
Okay.
that address environmental justice, that address equity, increasing opportunities for everyone, economic justice, social justice. And so that's my platform.
Okay. That's
what I'm running on, and I'll be working on those issues. But that's also why it's important to, that's why these type of interviews are important. It's like, who are you actually going to vote for?
Right.
Someone who's going to bring equity and justice and opportunities, or someone who might do otherwise.
Right. Totally understand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Evan.
And then there's more assignments of a legislator, and I can go into that if
Yeah,
you'd like,
yeah,
but I don't want to
No.
filibuster the time.
No, I totally.
Yeah.
It's a topic that can go on forever.
Yeah.
But, but thank you for breaking it
yeah.
down so simple that for our audience members to understand.
Yeah. We also work on the state budget, of course. And I'll be fighting in the state budget for different items to lift up our community. I could wonk out on that if you'd like me to. And then also using the bully pulpit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, using the bully pulpit to fight for our communities, to make statements that are important to our communities, and also to urge the federal government, on matters like immigration, to take good stances on immigration and other issues that the federal government works on that we could also be having a say in.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Evan. And, you did talk a little about, the traffic stops and like how you wanted to eliminate those, or not eliminate, but to eliminate for minor violations.
Sure.
So getting to, the topic of public safety as well. It's a big concern for people, public safety in Sacramento. However, a lot of communities are over-policed, and as a result, many politicians believe, and also many politicians believe over-policing is the solution. But a question I have for you is, do you have any other, solutions in mind that don't involve over-policing certain communities?
Yeah, definitely. I've been a leading voice in trying to, during the aftermath, in stopping the tear gas on protesters and stopping the rubber bullets on protesters. I really believe that here's where I come from. We need to, everyone deserves to feel safe. Everyone deserves to feel safe walking down the street.
Of course.
Everyone deserves to feel safe in our own homes. And we have some really great violence intervention programs. We have some really great gun violence reduction programs like Healing the Hood, Brother to Brother, the Black Child Legacy Project.
Right.
And we need to continue to invest in programs like that work. At the same time, study after study shows that truly reducing crime means getting to the root causes of it. And that is a healthy economy, that's everyone having access to health care, that's a living wage, that's good public schools. That is how we reduce crime. It's getting to the root causes, it's prevention. And it's not this tough on crime stance. We've tried that. We tried that during the 80s, we tried that during the 90s, and it obviously did not work. And it just perpetuated injustice on certain communities, and it made stereotypes out of certain communities, and it created divisiveness. And it shouldn't have done that, and it has lasting harm to this day, and not just in terms of that, but in terms of who's in jail, who doesn't have opportunities, who does. And we need to continue to repair that harm.
Right.
I've been really proud as a legislative staffer to have staffed the education budget for one of my former bosses, Assemblymember Phil Ting, during the creation of the local control funding formula. And that was how our California schools now get funded. And during that, it was a big fight about where those dollars were going to be allocated. And I was the point person in the assembly, one of the point people in the assembly, for ensuring that high-need schools and high-need students were the direct beneficiaries of those dollars. You know, we need to create the opportunities for everyone to thrive, because when we do that, crime goes down. And we need to all understand that. We need to understand that prevention addresses this, and when everyone has a chance to succeed, that is what's going to help us flourish. But I've been proud to work on so many different bills that provide a living wage, that expand access to health care, all of those different factors that give people opportunities to succeed. And that's really, truly what we need.
Yeah. You mentioned a word that really stuck out to me was division. And I know that one of the biggest issues in Sacramentans are facing is housing. What are some creative strategies that you could create to ensure that people will get housing? Because we understand that housing, even though it is a big issue, we understand that certain communities are facing housing a little bit more, such as like the LGBT community, Black and brown communities. And because of that, there's created like a division between the issue of housing, and most people would argue, well, why don't we just arrest them? What are your thoughts on that? How would you create a bridge between these two conflicting ideas, where one party believes we should do transitional housing and the other one's like we should arrest them? How would you create that bridge in order to create that unified solution where we're all on the same page, much like you said before?
Yeah. Well, you know, people have said to me that coalition building is my superpower. I like to show folks, you know, how everyone has a stake in this. But as I'm talking to voters, people seem to be on the same page, and as a plan that I'm putting forward.
Okay.
And I think it's because it makes sense both from a humanitarian point of view, but also from a dollars and cents point of view.
Yeah.
And I'd love to go into what I share on my approach to homelessness and affordable housing.
Please.
Okay, thank you, because this is personal to me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm obviously part of the LGBTQ plus community, and one of my best friends was kicked out of her house at the age of 13 and forced to live on the sidewalk in front of her church for 2 years. You know, why was she kicked out? Because her parents didn't accept her because she's transgender. And for every one Sacramentan being housed, 3 become unhoused.
Yeah.
This is an issue that we can no longer kick the can on this.
Yeah.
And we can't do political gamesmanship, because I don't care if someone thinks that they're winning in a game of political gamesmanship. No one's winning in a game like that. I approach this from a prevention, protection, preservation, and production model.
Okay.
For prevention, we can prevent And we need to prevent some of our fastest growing segments of who is becoming unhoused.
Right.
And some of that is simple. It's as simple as family members helping family members. We need to pass some policies that allow family members to live with family members as they're reintegrating back into our society. And they're reentering our society from the carceral system. Secondly, we need to equip parents to help and to accept their LGBTQ plus kids. We just simply need to do that.
Yeah.
Third, there are prevention funds for homelessness, and what we need to use that on is bill assistance, because so many people are just one bill away from becoming homeless. And the thing is that we can, if we pay that bill and carry them for a month, I mean, that is so much less than treating something after the fact.
Yeah.
After someone has felt, a cascading effect has happened and they become out on the streets.
Right.
And then fourth, and this is my prior work on addressing homelessness and housing affordability. And also, my approach to this, altogether is why I'm endorsed by the community group ACE and the California Democratic Party Renters Council, is around ending the abuse from corporate landlords and ensuring that tenants get a fair shake. So tenant protections as well, and rent caps. I fought for rent caps in the legislature. I've publicly endorsed it here locally. We need it. In addition to that, for the protection for folks already out on the streets, I'm a big proponent of the Housing First policy model, which gets folks indoors without any preconditions,
right,
and then gives them the wraparound services that they need, whether that's mental health care, whether that's bill assistance, whether that's vocational training, whether that's substance use, disorder treatment, but whatever is going to help them permanently get back on their feet. That makes sense from a dollars and cents angle, from an economic angle, because the government still has to go out and treat folks whether they're out on the street or not if they're homeless. And it costs so much money for the county to go out and find individuals. If they're actually with an address, that's less money. And studies show that. Studies show that is the more humanitarian approach and the more economic approach.
Okay.
And then for preservation, as a legislator, I'll be helping cities and nonprofits permanently preserve affordable housing as affordable housing. And then for production, we simply need to build more housing. I would do it in a greenfield way where it's infill and density, and then require portions of that to be affordable housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Evan, we just have a few more questions we'd like to ask before we close out.
Sure.
Would you like to ask?
Yeah. One of them I wanted to ask is around, you spoke to he spoke to no longer having division, but more unity. Community engagement is essential. And I have a question: how do you intend to utilize your legislative authority to actively engage community members, especially our youth, in the decision-making process and ensure that their voices are heard?
Yeah, no, I love this. I'm gonna have town halls once a month, and I want some of those to be led by youth and for youth. And so that's one of the ways in which I'm going to be doing this. Also, one of the things that I first said when in the first article that was written about me when I came out running for office was that I want to have a paid internship program out of my district office that is part capital, part district, but I want it to be an all-encompassing 360 where we get, and I want it to be particularly for youth from underserved and marginalized communities, who haven't gotten that same chance that other folks may get because of their connections. Because it's really hard to get into the Capitol, and it's really hard to break into public policy, and it just shouldn't be. And folks who have lived experiences, we need more of us in public policy because we're able to know what our community's needs actually are, And so in this, I envision these youth getting experience both in the district, in the Capitol, and then also, I've talked about this with the executive director of the Sacramento County Democratic Party, getting experience in the party and getting experience just all around in the political space. And so, when they come out of these internships, they're just fully equipped to have the tools needed to go up in the next rung in the ladder. Like, I want to create a legacy behind me of fully empowered youth who can just go out and conquer the world. That is the legacy that I want to create. And so, in addition to just, the informal feedback, and one of the things that I was able to do when Kevin McCarty, as assembly member, he created an LGBTQ cabinet. I'd be creating different cabinets, including the youth cabinet, but I would also be putting on formal town halls. But I also want to do this mentoring program. I remember I came to Sacramento and I didn't know anyone. I counted out how many I was in direct services. When I first got here, I came to Sacramento to take care of an ill family member, and I did direct services. I worked at Weave, and I took those stories home with me every night. And I thought to myself, I can't separate work and personal life. And I thought, goodness bless the folks who can do direct services. This is just not something that I can do, but I really want to make a change in people's lives. And I discovered that the Capitol was in our backyard. And I counted out the number of Democrats in the legislature, and I printed out that many resumes. I put on my best clothes. I went around the Capitol. I knocked on all the doors. I asked for an internship or a job, whatever they could provide. And I knew someone who worked in Dave Jones' office. I knew them because I volunteered at the California National Organization for Women with them. And that's how I got my first internship. I didn't get any other bites, but, no one should have to enter public policy, a way to better and serve our community because they have a connection, and that's why it's so important to me to ensure that folks don't have to have connections in order to enter this space to do good.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that word that you, legacy.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful message to voters out there, because we don't hear legacy coming out of politicians' words, like out of their, their vocabulary.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very powerful message to voters. Evan, as potentially the first transgender legislator in California, how do you believe your unique experience will influence your policy making? You mentioned it briefly, but I want to ask directly, how do you feel like it would influence your policy making, especially in District 6, which is a very diverse district?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that question. This is what the author of, there was a Transgender History Month resolution that was passed in the Assembly this year, and that was the first ever. And there was not one passed in the other house. And I was told that there was not enough voices there to express the need for that. And, I say that I have been able, I am part of I'm the co-chair of the Lieutenant Governor's Transgender Advisory Council. I'm the co-chair of the Democratic National Committee's Transgender Advisory Committee. I've done a ton of local work on all different issues, including trans stuff. I've gotten a lot of great stuff passed at the local, the state, and the national level. But in the year 2024, I can no longer abide by just pulling on the shirt sleeves of my friends in office and asking them to do things for our community. Like, we simply have to be there at the table.
Yeah.
especially when they're debating on our existence. And so by being there, I can share with them who we are. I was I'm considered the first openly trans staffer to have ever worked at the state capitol. And I transitioned genders there. And I jokingly call it the best of times and the worst of times. But, while there, I created spaces and I created dialogues and I created our first Trans 101 workshop for legislators and staff to let them know who we were. And I helped pass pivotal bills by sharing understanding of our communities. Nothing beats a legislator to legislator conversation. And I would be the first person in that room to be able to let fellow legislators know why these bills are so important to an underserved population that is so often targeted for political points.
Yeah.
And I'm there for all of us. I am there for all of us.
Yeah.
But our community simply must have and deserves representation.
Yeah. And you are that representation.
Thank you for that. And we've now got to time, but I did want to give you at least 1 minute. So sorry to end it there. 1 minute to leave with the voters why they should vote for you, why you would be the best representation for this 6th Assembly District.
The platform is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, I am a progressive change maker. I am someone who knows how to get things done. I've worked on the state budget. I've increased Cal grants, which has in the state budget. I have fought tooth and nail for high need students, high need schools to get the funding that they deserve in our state budget. In these dire budget times, we need people who have experience working on the budget. Cal grants is how my own father escaped poverty and how my family had a chance to succeed. I have not accepted or solicited funding from corporations and a whole litany of other, entities. I am on the side of the people. I've always fought on the side of the people to make life conditions better. When I picture myself in the assembly, the chamber is a bunch of desks. I never picture myself sitting at the desk. I picture myself going around from desk to desk, like being an organizer legislator, cajoling, asking, organizing, pleading with other legislators to vote on good bills and to not vote on bad bills or to vote against bad bills.
Right.
And so you're not just getting one vote, you're getting someone who knows how to do it, who's going to organize on the ground floor, who's been doing this for a long time, who is doing this for the right reasons, and who knows how to get the job done. I'm really excited, and I'm going to be doing this in partnership with community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evan, for your time. We appreciate you, and thank you for having this dialogue, this conversation with us. We really appreciate your time, and good luck.
Thank you.
Also, to our voters, we want to say, go out and vote at the election March 5th.
Yes, March 5th.
Your voice matters. So thank you, Evan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.